Good morning, everybody. We're going to let everybody get logged in for just a second, and then we will get started.
And I said to Abby,
All right, it looks like everybody is getting logged in. I wanted to welcome everybody today. I am Julie Wagner, and I am the NACM CEO. And also on our call today, we have two other of our team members, Amanda Schachter and Laura Sanchez, who you might be talking to when you have questions about your certification. And with that, I just want to welcome you and let you know we're going to start off with a short presentation about the exam, the eligibility criteria, and why you might want to become a CMC. And then we will go from there. I did want to ask, we'd love to hear from where you're from, so feel free to put in the chat where you're calling from, why you decided to join us today. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Byron Cordes, the NACM board president. He's an aging life care manager and also a care manager certified. Byron?
Guess I have to unmute. Okay. I love technology, but I hate technology. I love technology. I think technology hates me. Let's say that. Well, good morning or afternoon, maybe for some of you. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, um, all of you are here because you're considering becoming certified as a CMC, which is fantastic. So I'm Byron Cordes. I am I'm a clinical social worker and an aging life care manager in San Antonio. And we do recognize that a lot of CMCs are aging life care managers, but an equal number are not. They are working in other fields such as mental health and disability and hospitals and medical. So again, thank you and welcome. So we are, if you want, oh, there it is. So who is NACM, the National Academy of Certified Care Managers? Um, we were founded 40 plus years ago to support at a high level the competence and practice of care management through the CMC certification and recertification period program. So these are, um, you know, the care managers, sorry, I'm blanking. Care managers are different than case managers, only in a small way, and I'll talk about that hopefully in just a minute. So next one. So the purpose statement uh, of NACM is to endorse the voluntary certification by examination for all individuals practicing care management. And that certification should help protect consumers by ensuring the competence of an individual in a specialized area of practice. So CMC, like many other licensures or some other certifications, it not only promotes you as a professional and tells the world that you have reached, a high level of certification, but it also helps protect the consumer in that it it shows that you adhere to a rigorous standard of care. So NACM is the premier organization dedicated to elevating the field of care management through our certification period or through our certification program, sorry, our ongoing education and our supportive community. And we do have, I think, a high um, a great supportive network. All of our care managers certified, um, come together at different times for different educational events. We have a lot of ways that we support our care managers. So if we can go to the next slide. Um, the CMC certification promotes the delivery of safe and effective care management um, services in any practice setting. It establishes standards of experience and knowledge required for competent, ethical practice of care management. formally recognizing those individuals who meet the eligibility requirements from NACM and passes that standardized examination. And it encourages ongoing professional education and training of individuals engaged in care management. We help educate allied health professionals, employers, and consumers to help them make informed decisions when evaluating the skills and qualifications of care managers. And so, again, we do that through the exam and recertification period. Um, we list our care managers, on a national roster. And we promote that certification through social media, webinars, through our NACM partners. And through things like a media club, a CMC conversation where we help people kind of to grow, and through multiple trainings. Why get certified, which is, of course, the big question here today, which is it would enhance your credibility with clients and professional partners. It opens the door to professional opportunities and it promotes compliance with regulators. Many jobs ask that you get certified. Some don't ask it, but will help reward you even if you do. And so this is just one more. We none of us want an alphabet soup behind our name just to have that alphabet soup, but we want meaningful certifications, licensures, and things like that. So, if I can have the next slide. So I think that there is a difference between certificate programs and certifications, and I really think this is where we can help kind of show you that a certification, hopefully ours, is better than a certificate. So there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of certificate programs out there. So you can go to universities, you can go online, you can get a certificate from many times a university. I know several universities here in San Antonio, provide certificates in aging or in aging services or in disability services. And I'm not demeaning those. I think certificate programs have a great place. I think they help. Many times they help non-professionals prove that they have some additional experience. So you can get a real estate agent who says, I want to know more about aging. You can get, a banker who says, I want to know more about aging. And so they might get that certificate program. They might go through a certificate program to help bolster not only their knowledge of aging and disability, but kind of show that they've done something. But it's not a professional, not typically not a professional level certification. So our certification has a rigorous exam that you have to pass, and we don't apologize for it. That it's we don't have 100% pass rate. We have a good pass rate, but our exam is difficult. But we believe that with the combination of education in a health and human services related field, combined with the experience that we ask for, will help you pass that certification. And then our certification is also certified through accredited, sorry, by NCCA, by ICE. And we are the only nationally accredited certification specifically for care managers. And so that National Commission for Certifying Agencies looks at all of our processes. They look at the way we make our exam, the way we certify people, the way we weed out those folks that don't meet our criteria, and the way that we include those that do. And so we're certified to be certified, if that makes sense. So we think that helps. And that exam content that we use has 4 domains. And again, I think we believe that you should, through not all education is the same, right? Physical therapists might not have some of this, social workers might not get all of this, nurses might. So, but because of these domains, most of our education will give us many of these domains or some experience in these domains, and then that knowledge content put to use through experience. They should become, recognizable and understood. So the first one would be to assess and identify client strengths. So it's really an assessment through needs, concerns, preferences, and then the establishment of goals and care planning. And then initiate, manage, and monitor the ongoing execution and outcome of that care plan. And then promote and maintain professional standards in care management and in our business practices. So really, kind of a typical plan of care we should have, and we break these down a little bit in our handbook, and so it would explain to you what kind of knowledge areas and content areas you might need to know. So um, again, I think that certification is a commitment to quality care, support, and services. Um, it shows that we're community based. I think, as I started to say earlier, case management, which is my background. I'm a social worker that's done psychotherapy. I was a professor for 10 years, but I worked in a hospital setting for quite a while. And we moved from a department of social work into a department of case management. Um, and case management has a wonderful role in healthcare and in rehabilitation, in mental health, but it typically focuses on the individual and one event. And care management, the way we distinguish it is it's case management on steroids. It's doing that case management model, but it's community based. So we meet the client right where they are, and we look at a broader, more holistic um, way of treating that person and the system in which they live. So while a hospital case manager might focus, or let me use a workers' comp. A workers' comp case manager is going to focus on that one incident of injury. And they really have two masters, right? They have the employer and the client or the patient. Same thing with a hospital. You have the hospital administrator and you have the client. And in care management, we often focus only on the client. We don't have those other kind of distractions, if you will. So community-based, we're looking at them where they are, not just in that silo of a hospital or in a healthcare system. So it's person-centered, that's holistic in its approach. So next slide, thank you. The aging and your certification demonstrates your ability and competency in aging and disability services, community services and resources, a way to put all of those together, chronic disease management, benefits and financing options, including Medicare and Medicaid, legal and ethical concerns. We have a huge focus on ethics. Hopefully you've all looked at our code of ethics, or if you haven't, look at our handbook. And then special needs and advocacy, and family and individual support. Again, how do we bring in that family? How do we bring in any of the supportive services that that person needs and treat them as a whole unit, as a whole system? So next slide. This is my last one. Identifying the certification will enhance your professional future by identifying you with this prestigious credential. Again, we're the only credentialed case management or care management certification in the country. It can help you attract quality referrals, but it can also help you increase your opportunities for jobs, career advancement, and increased earnings. I know, certainly in with some of the care managers I've worked with in the past or spoken with as my term as president, we've seen folks. I'm not promising anybody a raise, but we've certainly seen them, get better recognition and possibly a raise in their job through hospitals. We've seen it through some of the agencies, and additionally, some of the insurers love to see that certification. Many times, hospitals or other facilities are requiring that you become certified, and so this would help with that. So I think there were some questions in the chat. I think I rambled on a little bit too much, but I can let Julie kind of talk about the application process.
Yep, I'll jump in, and then we can look back. I think some of the questions might get answered as we go through, and if not, we can definitely answer them at the end. I did want to quickly overview the application process. The most important thing I can say is to read the candidate handbook. It has a lot of information in it, but it absolutely answers 99% of the questions. So if you read through, it does talk about the whole entire process and what you need to do in order to become certified. The application process is through the testing company. It does not come directly to NACM, and it is an entirely online process. You do pay your application fee at the time of submission. And if you don't meet the criteria, they will refund a portion of that. But you do want to really make sure that you think you meet the criteria before you're submitting the application. And just another side note that your name must match exactly on the application as your government issued ID. So just, again, make sure you're reading the details. Once the application is approved, you then get a secondary email from the exam center, which is Prometric, and that is how you'll actually schedule your exam. And then, let's see. And then the other thing I will note that once you take the test, it does take about 4 weeks after the close of the exam period to get your results. And there's lots of reasons for that, and partially due to making sure that the exam goes well and that there's not any questions that have sort of discrepancies. And then they will send out the results, and that typically, so for the October exam, will be in late November. If you go to the next slide. So again, for this window that's coming in October, the deadline to submit your application is September 1st. I would recommend that you don't necessarily do it September 1st at 11 p.m. because sometimes there are technical difficulties or issues with submitting. So make sure you sort of get all of your ducks in a row and submit a little bit earlier. So if there's any questions, they can have time to reach out to you and get those taken care of. As far as eligibility, we have 4 different ways that you can meet the criteria to apply for the exam, and none of them are better than another. Sometimes there's some confusion there. It's just the different requirements, and it's based on your education, your supervised care management experience, and depending on your background and your degree, there may be additional direct client contact experience needed. The big thing is that you must be working in the field of care management and have the supervised care management experience hours, which is 50 hours of supervision per year per the requirements. So sometimes it is beneficial or easier to use your bachelor's degree, let's say, that might be in social work, and you might have a master's in business, but you'll use your social work degree in order to meet the criteria rather than the master's degree. So some of it just depends on the background and when you got them, because your experience has to happen after your exam or your degree is completed. Your care management experience must also include the 4 content domains. And so we can talk more about that, but it does have to be doing the work of a care manager. About the exam is computer-based exam and is multiple choice. And it's a 3.5-hour exam. We have 180 scored questions and 20 what we call pre-test items, and those are to be evaluated for a future exam. It is based on, as we said, the content domains and care manager tasks, which are listed in the candidate handbook. And it was developed through a job task analysis. And the questions were created by subject matter experts in the field. They've been reviewed and gone through by a couple of different panels of certified care managers. And then it is administered by the Professional Testing Corporation. A few of you asked about preparing for the exam. We do have a few different options. And while I am not a care manager by profession, I have been told, and Byron can probably attest, that the best way to prepare is by your supervised care management experience and your time doing the work in the field with your clients. However, we do have some ways that you can prepare. We have a CMC exam prep course. It is a recorded series and it is available on demand through our website. There is also an online practice test, and that is more to experience the format of the exam and what it will look like the day of. And then we do have, as I said, the handbook for candidates. And in there, you will find all of the reference materials that were used in creating the questions that are on the exam. So there are some different ways to do that. And I think back to Byron.
Perfect. So I think, our question now is, what are you waiting for, right? This is the heavy sales pitch. This is the hammer coming down on you. So I think, I'll give a little testimonial that I was not a huge certification fan. I thought my licensure was enough, right? I went to school for 7,000 years. And I really, it was convincing to me. I don't even know, probably 10 years ago. And I've been in the social work profession, and aging profession for over 30 years. But it took almost 10 years ago, probably a little over 10 years, that I finally realized that certification, while the licensure helped prepare me for the work that I do. I think it definitely gives me some credibility, having that clinical social work behind my name. But clinical social workers do a lot of different things. Physical therapists specialize in a lot of different things. Nurses specialize in a lot of different things. What I found was that certification, what I finally realized was that certification really brings us all together. So all of these kind of allied professions, I really think it helps brings us under one roof and proves that we have the knowledge, that I haven't just worked in child welfare my whole life and suddenly said I'm going to work with seniors or adults with disabilities. So I would argue that if this is something you're working towards, that you should sign up for the CMC certification today, right? That, as Julie said, really reading that NACM the candidate handbook, we find that a lot of folks, when they ask a question and we send them back to the NACM handbook, they say, "Oh, I meant to read that. I should have looked that over. I think I read that." And we're certainly not discouraging you from asking a question. If you have questions, please call our office. Julie, Amanda, Laura are all here to answer your questions. So there really is no such thing as a stupid question. But I do promise you that 95, I don't know what Julie used, 99% of the questions are probably going to be answered. Nuances, I get it. Sometimes the wording we used didn't quite make sense to you. But try and read the handbook, but then please call with any questions. We're happy to answer them. Complete that application and schedule your exam. I will, I guess, turn it back over to, um,
There's a question actually, Byron, I'm going to ask for you to respond to. It's really talking more about the supervised experience and what exactly does that mean? Because I know, yeah, so
yeah, good question, which is an excellent question because I think, many times when we say the word supervised, we think of my boss, right? Somebody that I am under. And that's not necessarily what we're looking for. Many of our candidates and many of our certificates are in a private practice, right? What happens if you're working, completely solo, or you're working in a larger practice where you're the one expert in this field? So you can use it's really meant to be um, peer-to-peer supervision. So you can use just another CMC supervisor. So, if you need help connecting with somebody, I think we can help. Julie, I don't want to overpromise, but we might be able to help you find somebody in your area. Call me. How about that? Call me. I'll help you. I'll see if I can help find you somebody.
there is
Um,
there is also just to not to refer you back to the handbook, but I will because there is a pretty good description in the
yeah,
handbook of what we mean by supervision slash consultation and what that can look like. So there's several examples. So I think that
yeah.
gives you sort of some good
So
feedback.
again, if you're in private practice, that could look like, weekly meetings with another CMC, either in your area or somewhere else in the country. So yeah, it does not have to be your boss.
And it looks like there is another question about the exam, and it's from Mohammed. I don't, and it says there was a survey sent out a couple of years ago collecting feedback about the exam. Did that lead to changes? I'm not exactly sure what you're referencing. We did do a job task analysis, I believe, in 20, I'd have to look back, 19.
I
20.
was going to say 2020, 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what they use to determine the care management tasks, care management domains, and then the task list, and that's what the exam is based on. We also there are different versions of the exam that the exam committee as well as the testing company work on, and they're constantly every other year we're updating the exam uh
To be relevant.
the
Yeah.
to be the questions, but the content domains only change. We're doing another job task analysis in 2027. I think for accreditation, we do it every 5 to 7 years. So that will be the next time the domains and tasks are looked at, and then new exams will be built around those. But it really is not a field where uh, where it's required that we do it more frequently than that. Does that
Yeah.
answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. So I would argue I mean, the exams rotate.
Right.
The content domains are always the same. But the test,
Until the next analysis.
correct.
Yeah,
Well, so yeah, until the next job task analysis, because I think we did change the domains slightly. We had aligned the
right.
domains a little bit better, 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Thanks, Mohammed.
okay,
Any other questions?
somebody asked. There was this sort of a specific question about having a bachelor's in psychology and then earning a master's in social work. And I think while we can't tell you right now if you qualify to sit for the exam or not, it really is based on your experience post degree. So you'd probably, since you don't have the social work degree yet, want to look back at your bachelor's in psychology and then look at your care management supervised experience since that time to see if you qualify for the exam. Any other
But from the
questions?
education side, the bachelor's in psychology would typically,
Is a
yeah,
related field. It's considered a
correct.
related field, yes. I'm pretty sure I answered the questions in the chat, but if I didn't, please feel free to speak up. Or if you want to ask a question, you're welcome to turn on your cameras and your microphone and jump in. That's what we're here for.
How
There
do
was a
you,
question from Amy that says, how might you get experience in the field if you are brand new? So I might throw that to Byron and also uh, speak of the Aging Life Care Association a little bit, possibly.
yeah, I would. And hello, Amy Phillips's puppy. Apparently, you're world famous. Um, I how can you get experience? I think partnering with somebody that is already in the field. So again, the Aging Life Care Association um, is a wonderful organization. For those that I hate to confuse um, folks because I know sometimes they think we're the same thing. Uh,
They might
so
not even know what the Aging Life Care Association is, though, so maybe you could.
good. So the Aging Life Care Association is a 45-year-old easily, right? 45,
42.
42, 42. I'm making it older than it needs to be. So 42-year-old association of aging life care managers. And again, the CMC is completely separate, but the Aging Life Care Association is a professional association for folks practicing aging life care management. The Aging Life Care Association is made up of all different types of health and human services related folks. Again, all of the same kind of licensures and professions that we've talked about. Oh yeah, they're aginglifecare.org. Good, Amanda caught that. And So it is a professional organization that helps folks to kind of grow their practices and come together as one um, giant profession. It is not a trade association. I will argue, I think oftentimes it's tasked to act like a trade association um, because it is the only professional organization out there really for aging life care management. There's the Case Management Society of America, which has I think, a very different focus and really very healthcare focused. Great organization, but the Aging Life Care Association is really focused on folks who are working in the aging and disability fields and are working in the community. So you're working with the clients where they live. And so um, to become a member of that, you just have to be working in that field. Actually, you just have to kind of want to work in that field. We'll start with that. But
You do have to be working in the field or working with somebody who is, so you could, certainly get a position or try to get a part-time position with somebody that's in your area that's hiring. I will say there are aging life care management practices across the country right now that I do think are hiring. So there is that.
we're
Um,
we're looking for
but
Kerrville.
one thing about I think that sometimes comes up is sometimes people think they have to be certified to do the work. And actually, it's a little bit opposite. You need to do the work first before you can become certified. And certified is sort of that next level. Think of like a career path or so you can. The reason I mentioned the Aging Life Care Association is it is a place to kind of get in the community, learn from others in the field, and you can join at what we have an associate level, a professional level, and an advanced professional level that then as you move up and become certified to be an advanced professional member of the Aging Life Care Association, you need a certification, and NACM is one of the ones that you can have to be at that level. So it might be a way to give you some education and some community in engagement. So,
There
and
is
then
additionally a student level.
yes, for an
Alta.
for somebody in a current accredited program, yes.
Correct.
Yes. There's a question about recertification, which is a great question. Once you are certified, you do need to maintain your continuing education. You are required to have approximately 15 hours a year, but basically 45 hours before your next renewal date, which is 3 years. And so you can get that through numerous ways. NACM has lots of pre-approved events by NACM that you can attend and get your continuing education. The Aging Life Care Association we mentioned also has events that are pre-approved for NACM, CMC, CE credits. And then there's lots of other organizations as well. So great
Yeah, we partner.
question.
I was gonna say we partner with a lot of organizations.
Mhm.
I will say that while that's simpler, if you use NACM approved CEUs, they don't always have to be. So if that's right, so you could use as long as it fits within those four domains, the class work, the CEU work that you've done. So I know for me, I attend a lot of social work things, a lot of nursing things, and sometimes, many times, those CEUs actually apply. So I probably do about 2/3 of NACM's approved CEUs over those 3 years, and about a third probably maybe come from another source. Um,
There is another question about supervision and can it be with someone who is a CCM or a CASWCM? And the answer is yes, it can be by anyone. We do, I mean, we prefer it says that there is CMC, but it is not required. Sometimes it's, correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes it might even be like an elder law attorney or someone else in the field. It may not even.
Yeah, PhD in psychology or something, or yeah. Um, yeah,
Hi, I'm the person that asked the question about the psychology bachelor's. I'm asking specifically because I don't want to have to go through the application process and then realize that I do not qualify. Like I said, I have my bachelor's in psych. I have worked in case management for over 5 years because I'm doing the admissions, I'm doing discharges, I'm doing the transitional care, connecting to resources, all of that. I currently work in an inpatient geriatric psych unit, 104 in New Hampshire, and I'm the only person doing the admissions, discharges, the whole 9 yards there. And I am due to get my MSW in this December. So that's what, thank you. It's been a long road, but that's what leads me to ask this question specifically because I feel like this is something that would really help me, one, be established. I work in rural, New England. So it will help me be very credible and also help me establish like my credibility here with people and hopefully open more doors for me in terms of what I can do with this degree. But like I said, I don't want to go through the application process not knowing if I would qualify or not. I do get consultation, which is paid for by my employer through somebody that is an LICSW. And when I do get my degree, the plan is this person would now translate from consultation to supervision for me to get my clinical licensure. So that's like the little background there that I have, and I just want to have an idea of what that means for me.
yeah. I mean, I'll let Julie smack me if I'm wrong. Obviously, we can't tell you qualify. That's the application process. Um, but I'm fairly confident that you're in a good position, either with the bachelor's or the master's. Um, and you have all of the right, well, it appears that you have all of the right experience, and inpatient psych unit would most likely qualify you as long as you're doing those four domains. And the clinical peer-to-peer consultations that you're having with an LICSW should qualify you. I mean, again, most likely, but I don't think we can promise that. So that's what the application is for. But
Right.
sounds like you're in
Well,
great standing.
right. And the one I would say you definitely would need to look at your bachelor's degree because your experience would need to be past post your degree unless you wanted to wait till after you graduated with your master's and then earned the experience after that. So there is another question about home care,
Thank
which
you.
I would love for you to speak to, Byron, because I do think this is one that sometimes comes up. It says, it's from Paul. It looks like, and it says, I have a degree in business administration, which would be considered an unrelated degree, but still eligible with the right experience, and 31 years of home care. And I think this is where I'd love for you to give some input on the difference or what the difference between that and care management.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend.
Right.
It's going to depend. What kind of what you're calling home care. I will tell you, we sometimes get applications that PTC makes the initial determination, but if there's bigger questions, they'll sometimes send it to our board, and we'll get questions from why don't I qualify it, or do I? I think I do. And it'll be from folks like a nurse who has been supervising clinical nurses in home care, and that's not the same. We can look at the job description and see, what they've necessarily been doing, but it has to match those four domains. So there has to be not just a clinical assessment. The assessment is bigger than that, right? It's a larger biopsychosocial assessment and care plan. So going into a home and evaluating somebody's wound care needs, impressive. I can't do it. I can't even look at the pictures. But going in and evaluating someone's wound care needs, um, and then making a plan of treatment for that specific issue it's not going to be the same. And so that's why I think the handbook is doubly important to look through and make sure that you're really meeting those criteria. Um, and I don't want to make it sound like they're super, super strict or that they're really, really loose, but there are boundaries there for a reason. Did that answer the question?
And can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess reading the handbook wasn't exactly, didn't provide the clarity that I needed. Since 1994, being in home care, it has gone through a plethora of situations. So you have the where the caregivers are coming in and actually providing the care. No, I'm not a registered nurse or an LPN. But then I've also been administration over a home health agency, which also provided the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, those type of things. The only assessment piece that I've really done in all of those years have been when you want to talk to a family about what would be best for their family member as it pertains to hours, getting the initial information, and then bringing that back to a clinical team that can actually do the clinical assessment as it pertains to diagnoses and different things to that nature. But and now I've gone to now being regional vice president over a total region that provides this home care assistance. So the handbook didn't exactly give me that clarity, and that's why I wanted to post it. Not an approval question, but
Sure.
whether or not the experience I've had over the last 31 years would even apply to those criterions that's already set.
Yeah, and I think it potentially can. That's where, if you're working with families and you're building a larger plan, especially around, I think private duty home care as opposed to home health. Home health is often where we really get stuck. I'm going to tell you because it's very clinical. And so people will say, I did plans. I did a physical therapy plan of treatment. Well, that's a plan of treatment. That's like, me as a psychotherapist saying, I came up with a treatment plan for your mental health needs, but it's not, it needs to be broader than that. And so I think personal care oftentimes looks at the bigger picture, right? Where you're saying, I don't even think you're appropriate for us. As you're going in there and you're doing your assessment, and you're looking at the bigger picture and saying, "Phew, I don't, even with 24-hour care in the home, I think you're not safe,"
Yeah.
or things like that. So it really could. I think
Yeah.
you'll need to look kind of at your experience, and I'm happy to talk to you offline and dig deeper if you want to.
One thing to
Thank you.
remember too, just it has to be within the last 10 years, just that I don't think we mentioned that. So I just want
Thank
to
you.
point out that while more experience is great, but the relevant or current has to be within the last 10 years that you're using.
And post degree, I think I want to
The
make
post
sure.
degree and last 10 years.
Yeah, so like our person who's saying, you're working on your master's, well, it's great. If you wanted to use your master's that you get in December, unfortunately, you'd have to wait a whole nother year, right? Whereas you may already have enough experience to just use your bachelor's and the extra couple of years, and use that to get that
Right.
certification.
And it doesn't
Period.
change anything about the certification. It's
Correct.
just a matter of how you meet the eligibility criteria. Any other questions? Anybody?
Well, I thought I saw a question that had not been answered yet as it pertains to experience, but don't didn't necessarily have the professional license, and that's also interesting uh, because people in my industry have asked me the same question, and I told them I was going to join this meeting today, and hopefully we can get an answer to that.
For the NACM exam, you are required to have a minimum of an associate's degree, or an RN diploma would be the minimum amount of education that you can have to sit for the exam. There are, and then ways above that and based on the criteria.
Yeah, so like in Texas, I know, Paul, you said LPNs. We call them LVNs, licensed vocational nurses. Same thing.
Same thing,
Uh,
right?
but so many times our LVNs don't actually get the associate's degree, right? They just
Right.
get the nursing certification without an actual degree. And so that's sometimes we get locked up there. But if as
They
long as
cannot sit for the exam, correct?
correct. They
Correct.
can't, they just can't.
Right.
And so, yeah. So any degree, associate's, bachelor's, master's, or PhD, then more experience. So we're just saying, hey, you've taken some courses, you've learned to critically think, and now you've applied it to care management, and you've supervised care management, where you've had somebody who would know that, know these realms, even if adjacent, right? They may not be a CMC, but because of their position as a psychologist or social worker or a nurse or something, they've been supervising you, helping you along the way. I'm using the vertical. Doesn't have to be a boss. So that you have that added experience. And so we're saying, the further away your degree gets from Health and Human Services, kind of the more experience you need. We balance them out.
Because it's really interesting because you have, probably in all of our careers, we have talked with families trying to make that decision. What's the best service? At least I will speak from my standpoint. At least for me, I mean, we talk to families all the time, and sometimes home care is not the best resource. So now, do you leave that family with, well, they're not the choice, and then that's it? But no, you tie in with other resources as well that may be a better fit for them. And so, that was what I was also reading too, because it was like, well, would that be considered? And then Julie, you then answered that it has to be within the last 10 years. Well, we just did it yesterday. So it's like, it's like what is relative, what is not relative. And so that's very helpful to get that information.
That's excellent. And I think Eloise made a fantastic comment, comment/question. Yeah. is there a discussion within, giving the looming crisis in elder care? Is there a discussion within ALCA or NACM about developing programs for people who are seasoned professionals and seek to transition to this field? So I think, I would almost argue this has probably been, for ALCA, it's probably been one of the pitfalls. I don't, that may be too strong of a word, but is that we often get folks coming over to ALCA, the Aging Life Care Association, later in life. It's a career change, and so then we have an aging workforce. We just keep replenishing the aging workforce, and that sounds ageist. I'm up there also. I'm heading towards retirement age. I won't retire, but so
I have a question. I just wanted to know for the supervision for that 50 hours, do we have to get a form from your organization that my supervisor have to fill, or how do we go about putting those hours together?
yeah, you would get a certificate. If you got the CEU from NACM, you would get a NACM a certificate. If you're getting it from something else, from social work, nursing, from some other, you would need to Julie, I'm sorry. Go for
I'm
it.
not sure that's the question.
No, that's
Sorry.
not the question.
Yeah,
Yes.
she
Oh,
was, so for the supervision for the application,
thank you.
there is
Sorry.
a form as part of the application that you fill out, and it actually is at the last two pages of the handbook. And it's
Okay.
a verification form, and it is, you list your supervisor's name, phone number, and email. And then we do have we do audit those, and we periodically reach out to those. We don't necessarily reach out to everyone. But so you just list the person that is that you did your supervision with, their name, phone number, email. Does it answer that? And then back to the ALCA NACM question on careers. I mean, I think that both organizations, and we are two separate organizations, but it's the same staff that manages both. So just to be clear.
To make it more
And
confusing.
I do think that both organizations have talked about this a lot and ways to embrace. And that is one of the reasons we have for the Aging Life Care Association different levels of membership. So people can join as they're just starting their career in care management, or what we call aging life care management. And then as they gain the experience, they can move up to the next level and then become certified. So I think that is one of the reasons that there is that career path.
But I do want to make sure that we resonate that even if you're not thinking of becoming an aging life care manager and joining ALCA, if your career path is a little different, you're working in a mental health clinic, you're working in some other case or care management venue, this still is a fantastic. This is a fantastic
For sure.
certification to get. Yeah.
Another question that I have, I'm trying to understand. I think for some of the slide that you brought out, there's a slide that says that we have among the bodies depends on your area of specialty. Like I'm a licensed social worker and I have certificate in gerontology, working with seniors, and I've been doing that for the past 15 years. And then do I specifically focus on that body that I want to give in preparation for the exam? Is there any area that specialize that I have to work with? Because I don't know, you from that slide, I'm trying to understand. Did you say if you are a social worker, this is preparation a body that can help you? If you are a psychologist, this is the body that you need to follow that will help you for the preparation for the exam, or you just generally the same preparation?
I think you might be referring to what on our slides they were 16 and 17. I'm sorry, yeah, 16 and 17. It's the eligibility requirements. Is that so? It was the education that's required and then the experience and direct client contact.
I, I just want to know which area that I need that will support me for the preparation for the exam.
Preparation.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I think we have an exam prep course. We have, so to prepare for the exam, we have an exam prep course that is online that is available for purchase. There is an online practice test, but that is very specifically geared towards really experiencing the format of the exam and what to expect the day of. And then in the handbook are all the reference materials. I think
Okay.
maybe at one point Byron had mentioned depending on your background, because if you're a nurse, you have very different background than a social worker, than a OT. And so it's really focusing on the content domains that might be that you might need more focus on based on whatever your educational background was, since everybody,
That's what I'm
since
thinking.
we cover a range of educational backgrounds, so people
Okay.
come with different experience when they enter into the field. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Is that what you
Yeah.
meant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think
Right.
I think looking at those content domains and what falls under them, yeah, and then seeing, oh, I think I'm weakest here. And I'm not trying to disparage the test. It really ultimately ends up being pass fail. There's not, nobody goes around and says, haha, I got a 98 on my exam, and oh, I got a 72. There is a pass rate that is set based on the folks taking the test and the questions at the time. So um, you don't
Thank
have
you.
you don't have to get 100%.
Okay.
Hi, this is Mohammed Hassan. I have actually taken the test before, so I'm not concerned about the criteria. Hopefully, I will qualify again. My issue was I got a grade that was close to a passing grade, but did not pass it. And I had been working as a care manager for maybe a couple of years at the point that I took the test, and I have since it's been like 3 years since I took the test, and I have since then still been, continuing to work in the field. My challenge was the lack of like a handbook for the test. I did take the prep course, so I did go through that. I did the online prep exam. I went through the reference material, which is like a list of books and articles. Obviously, didn't read all the books, but I did kind of skim through the books. I bought some of them. I got some of them online. But I didn't feel that the test actually reflected the material that I went through. To give you a couple of examples, the test asked a couple of questions about like Native Americans and, doing the assessment and special scenarios like that I had never encountered in my profession. And I think very few people have. And at the same time, it wasn't in any of the material that was referenced in the handbook. So there were like a lot of corner scenarios about like elder abuse. All of us have experienced and dealt with some level of elder abuse, but maybe not to the level that was in the test. Or, there were like, I felt like there was a lot of corner scenarios in the test. And that's just my impression. I could be just wrong. But I would love, like, I'm a certified, I'm a certified senior advisor. So a CSA, and I have been certified for that for the past, like, I maintained that certification for the last 13 years. And that test has a really thick, heavy book, but it's contained within it. The knowledge is in that book, but in this case, there really isn't like one main source. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of hesitant about taking the test again. I'll be honest with you.
yeah, I would be too. And I think certainly I think you've hit on some of the key points that we hear from folks is that there were pieces of the test that I had no earthly idea. I mean, timings of medications, and as a social worker, you're kind of going, oh, whoa, for me. So I hear you, and I I'm going to agree with you to some extent that I think there's always going to be parts of the test that you're going to say, I've never heard of this before. I've never encountered this before, which is again why it's a pass fail. It's a general book of knowledge, or general bank of knowledge. But this is why certification and certificates are different. And so um, I hate certificates, and I've never taken the CSA, so I'm certainly not knocking it. I actually think it's an excellent. The folks that I know that work as CSAs, or that have that CSA, have a great general knowledge, but their goal is to get you to pass that exam. So they're giving you the book to say, study this and you'll have the knowledge. We're saying you need to know a lot of stuff. You need to have a really broad knowledge, and you need to have the experience on how to apply that knowledge. So it's going to be harder. It's going to be much harder, and it's going to be lot more, a lot more topics. And I can tell you, having sat on the exam committee a couple of years ago, as we were going through them, with 30, almost 35 years in social work, and I'm sorry, over 30. See, I can't even do math. 36. I have 36 years. Oh my gosh, I'm older than I thought. I started in 1989. Having that much experience, having served, as the ALCA president years ago, having served as the NACM president, having owned my own company for 23 years, supervising, a half dozen, care managers in my office, and thinking I'm hot stuff. I looked at that exam and went, oh, I hope I could pass it myself now these days. But I could. But I didn't know everything. I didn't know all the questions. And so that's
Yeah.
why you just have to find, where do you think you're weakest? And there's always going to be a question that's.
And I would also state that remember there are 20 questions on the exam that are test questions, pre-test, and sometimes the reason that they don't end up on an exam is because nobody gets them right or they realize it's out of the scope. So, you have to, and I know this happens in most accredited exams when they're taking them, because that's how they sort of, obviously see if the questions are good questions or if they need to be reevaluated. So, not to say that that's everyone, but sometimes that's the
Yeah.
case. And I know one of the other things, I am not on the exam committee and I'm not a care manager. So I've never seen the exam. But the other thing I know they work very hard at is that there really is only one right answer. And so often, even if you don't know the content, you sometimes can evaluate the answers and hopefully make an educated guess. I think that's sort of their theory from what I've, when I hear them, the reasoning
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. I think for the questions that were clear, there was only one clear answer. It's just that when you don't know, like you just alluded, when you really have no idea and you need to eliminate, it becomes hard to do that when the test is really long. It took me, I don't know how long generally the average is, but it took me like 3.5 or 3 hours and 20 minutes. So towards the end, your ability to eliminate gets weaker and weaker because you're losing focus. You're becoming mentally more fatigued. So
Sure.
that was my challenge with the exam, or my challenges with the exam.
Sure.
Yeah. And I feel for you.
We are running a little over time. I'm happy to stay on if anyone has any questions, or the staff here is available to answer questions as well by email or by phone. So unless
We did
anybody
have
had a
Mercy. I
burning
think Mercy
issue,
had her hand raised. I don't know,
I
Mercy, if you.
think she may have already
I
answered.
wanted to say thank you so much, Hassan, for those questions that you raised. My concern is that when people, and then I heard Ms. Baron also said that people have also mentioned it. I know that there is no way that you're going to know all the questions, but when it's something that is keep coming up, then I think it would be better they add it to the preparation course so that it will not be something that when you enter the exam hall, you don't know it at all. So than for you to have an idea, since it's something that are becoming and that people are saying, oh, there's something in this. From what I heard from him, he read the handbook. We went through the preparation course. He did everything that he needed to do, and then to enter the exam hall and find out that there's something totally that he didn't even know anything about. So if that question keep coming like that, why not something being done about it and said, okay, bring it to the examiners and said there are some questions on that coming up that is not at all on the preparation course. So if there's any way they can be able to uh, quote those questions and look into it and see, because he said he have a close pass mark, but he couldn't pass because these questions he has never come across them before on the
Well,
preparation course.
so I'll address that. So not only are there, could some
Mhm.
of those questions have been on the, the 20 questions that we're looking at, if they're going to ever be on a future exam, we do look at each and every question on each exam. And so if lots of people miss, PTC could get into the statistics of it. So I apologize I'm going to vernacularize it, if that's a thing. So we look at if most people miss that question, we typically throw it out, and then send it back to the committee to either be reworked or discharged from the
Mhm.
exam.
Right.
So it is. I would argue the test is always under scrutiny, and that's the beautiful thing of our credentialing, is that they're watching us. They're making sure that we are presenting a test that truly reflects the work that care managers do. And I'm sorry that Mohammed, didn't pass the last exam. That it's even more frustrating when you're really close. Um, but I'm not sure what the issues were. But not everybody passes, and sometimes it's test anxiety, and sometimes it really is the test, and so
And
you have
there's
to kind of go
multiple
back to the basics.
fours and they
Yeah,
rotate, like I said. And it's been, if it was 3 years ago, there's been two different reiterations since then, I think. So
yeah,
and again, we don't have any access to the exam. And and one comment I will say too, for the education, per our accreditation, our education body is completely separate from our exam committee, and they shall never cross paths, right? So
right.
that is actually part of the requirements. And so we are not um, teaching to the exam. We are teaching to the field, I guess. We're an overview of all of the things, like, you know what I mean? And that's because of that separation, and it's required. So,
Yeah.
Kristen had her hand up, and then I think we might need to wrap up. Kristen, did you have a question?
Yeah, just trying to take it all in. And I've been on previous webinars where you guys just talk about care management from like from elderly care management from the outlooks and things like different things like that, case scenarios and all that kind of thing. And I'm just trying to figure out the order of operations for myself, and I'm hearing other people's examples of their histories and things like that, and I'm wondering where I fit into all of this. And I'm just going to go through this a little fast. I have my master's degree in health administration, um, and I worked at Leading Age for a number of years, and another post-acute care association where I basically did a lot of learning in diffusion, you know, training professionals, nurses, pharmacists, nursing home administration, all that kind of thing. And then I worked in a nursing home for a little bit. And informally, I've been kind of trying to break into this, um, helping caregivers, and giving, because I know so much about healthcare and about senior living. I've been informally helping my peers. I'm in that sandwich generation. And now I'm trying to break through, you know? So now I'm trying to figure out, what do I do next?
Recording in progress.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have, again, can't make any guarantees, no promises.
Yeah.
But it sounds like from what you explained, you would have the education. You have a lot of experience, but it's in more of a policy and education forum. So you would need to have that direct client contact. That
And
may
that's why I was asking about the 50 hours, because I was
Yeah.
like, does that count as, or do I need more than that?
no.
Okay, so I
50
just need the 50 hours.
50 per year of the experience that you're using for your eligibility
Okay.
Correct. And so, I don't,
within the last 10 years.
correct, within the last 10 years. And so, and it can be broken up. So
Right.
See you later.
so if you worked at Leading Age and you were, running their webinar division.
But
I
that
don't
was
know.
earlier in my career. So like,
Okay, but I'm just saying if that was it might that wouldn't be direct client contact, so it might not qualify you. Whereas, the time spent with, direct practice would. So
okay.
yeah.
In
Okay,
So
so
you may either have to piece it together from the last 10 years and see if you've got enough, or just wait until you have enough.
So
So you
10
can
years
start
of
doing
50
care
hours
management.
per year. 10
Yes.
years of 50 hours per year.
No.
Sorry.
It's based on your criteria. So if and I'm happy to talk offline, or
Okay,
you could send
that's
in your
fine.
resume sort of or just briefly what you've done at what lengths of time. But typically a health administration degree would not be considered a related degree. So you'd need to
Mhm.
look at option D, I think. And
Okay.
then you would need 3 years of supervised experience, 3 years of full-time paid supervised experience, and that can be part-time, and there's a formula to figure out what that looks like. And then 1 additional year of direct client contact. And that has to be over the last 10 years.
I would argue, I
Okay.
think the healthcare administration might.
Typically, it's not
Okay.
unless they would
Okay.
submit their transcripts, and if there's some, it depends
Okay.
usually it's more administrative and less,
Less clinical. Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that one didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, but
But honestly, if you want to send me either like your transcript and then just a brief email, even with what you've been doing, I'm certainly happy.
yeah, okay. I'll try to find your email address. Thank you.
It is just, our emails are all on the website under this, or at least mine is.
Okay, Julie, thank you.
jwagner@nacm.net.
Okay, Julie, thank you so much. .net. Okay.
There, it's on there.
Alrighty, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you,
I was trying to
everybody.
make sense of it all with other people's experience. It just
Sure.
didn't sink in.
It's all very specific to the person, so I think that's where it does get a little complicated for sure.
Alrighty, I appreciate it. But
Thank
I
you,
have been a
everybody, for
lifelong
joining us.
passionate fan of the elders, so.
Well, good.
Great.
Well, I will thank you all for your time and attention. This has been, I think, this has been one of our best, certainly well attended and great questions. Please reach out truly to any of the staff or myself if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to help.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.